This is the one. We have to get an appointment as soon as we can. We can't let this opportunity slip. Jason and Claire Martin traveled from the busy city of Manhattan to a peaceful and quiet suburb in Buffalo, New York, with plans of buying a house. Claire quickly noted down the number of the real estate agent on the signboard and booked an appointment later that afternoon. This house? It belongs to the Taylors. It's a bit pricey for its current condition. Are you sure you don't want to look at a few other properties? No, Mr. Brown, we've settled on this one. It's perfect. It reminds me of my childhood home. If I ever have children, I would want them to grow up in a house like this. To be honest with you, in all these years, the owner, Miss Evelyn Taylor, hasn't agreed to sell the house to anyone. You see, her husband left her for another woman a long time ago. But even after that, this house has remained to be of sentimental value to her. She now lives there with her son. He's about 19 years old. He'll probably move out soon, and perhaps then Miss Taylor might actually want to sell the property. Will you please request to show us the house? I can try, but usually the family doesn't show the house to everyone. Whenever there's a potential buyer, her son meets them in person before he agrees to bring them to the house. But over these years, I have noticed something interesting. Whenever a single man comes to see the property, the young man takes him back. But if it's a couple, he always refuses their offer, even the highest ones. Jason raised his brow, chuckling. That's odd. Is the son looking for another father? Mr. Brown gave a grin. I don't know about that. I will give them a call, but I doubt whether they will agree to show the property to you. After the Martins left the office, Mr. Brown called up the Taylor's residence. I was calling to inform you of a potential buyer. They're a young couple who's interested in checking out your property. Alright, ask them to come to the office tomorrow. If I like them, I'll show them the house. The next morning, Jason and Claire were more than happy to get a call from Mr. Brown. When they arrived at the office, they found the young man waiting for them. Hello. I'm Ivan Taylor, so you two are looking to purchase the house. Jason shook hands with Ivan. Yes, we're really taking it into consideration. I'm Jason Martin, and this is my wife, Claire. Hi, we're actually really excited to check the house. When I first saw it, it reminded me so much of home. Ivan nodded his head, taking a look at the couple. Sounds great. Then why don't we get headed there right now? Jason quickly turned and looked at Mr. Brown, a bit surprised. That was easy. Thank you so much, Mr. Taylor. Have a nice day, Mr. Brown, Ivan said as he walked out the door. The couple followed after, as Mr. Brown watched them a bit dumbfounded. I was so sure he was going to say no. Just a 10-minute walk down the neighborhood, Ivan and the couple arrived at the house. He escorted them down the large yard where Miss Taylor waited at the front door. This is my mother, Evelyn Taylor. Mother, this is Jason and Claire Martin. Welcome to the neighborhood. You two don't look like you're from here. Is this the first time you're visiting Buffalo? Yes, we live in the city, but we were looking to buy a house away from the hustle and bustle when we spotted this beautiful house of yours. Miss Taylor chuckled. It's quite chilly out. Come on in. She escorted them to the living room and ushered them to sit. The cold weather is the usual here in Buffalo. When it snows, there's practically no way to go outside. The market is also quite far. Every winter we have to stock up on groceries and supplies, just in case of a storm. You won't be able to travel much around here without a car. You can't simply hop on a train or a bus like back in the city. Oh, that's no problem. We're used to the cold weather. And this house, I love what you've done with it. It's really cozy in here. If you wouldn't mind, I'll be right back. If you have any questions, you can ask my son. While Miss Taylor hurried off, Ivan took a seat opposite to the couple. Is this your first time buying a house? It is. We actually got married about 2 years back, planning to start a family in the coming years, and this house seemed perfect. But I've heard the house needs some renovation. Yes, it does. The boiler needs to be replaced, and there are a few leaks in the roof. Just then, Miss Taylor returned with steaming hot cups of cocoa. Miss Taylor, you didn't have to go through the trouble. No, it wasn't trouble. Please enjoy. Claire and Jason sipped on their drinks as they inquired Miss Taylor. If we buy the property, just repairing the damage will cost us a lot, and the price of the house itself is a bit too high, isn't it? Miss Taylor sighed as she nodded her head. The house is surely expensive, but there is a reason behind it. A reason? May we know the reason? It's for baiting someone. Who? For baiting my missing husband. Jason and Claire looked at each other confused. I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Miss Taylor went on to explain. It was all many years ago. My husband Matthew and I were happily married. He was a software engineer. Once he had reached a good post at his workplace, we bought this home, and soon after I had my son. Life was wonderful back in those days. We used to take family road trips every month to bring back supplies and groceries. Ivan was growing up so fast. Before we knew it, we started homeschooling him. Matthew used to work from home as well, and it was only once in a while that he would visit the BII Tech headquarters in New Jersey. Usually he would stay there for a few days and return back. But over time, I started to notice those visits became frequent, and they would be longer each time. I started to become suspicious of him. And one day I realized my husband was cheating on me. Matthew had met a woman at BII Tech. She was one of the programmers that worked alongside him. On Matthew's visits to the headquarters, he would often be caught up working overtime. Aren't you going to go home? It's Thanksgiving. I know, but I have to get this done. But why are you here? Well, if I leave now, you'll be working all alone. The young woman was kind and caring and always knew how to make Matthew smile. And it was soon enough that Matthew started to feel for her. Are you falling in love with her? What are you talking about? I'm a married man. Dude, love doesn't see any boundaries. I've been missing you too, but you know I have to take care of things back at home. I'll try to return next week. At the time, I always gave him the benefit of doubt. I tried to keep patience because I didn't have any proof to show for it. But perhaps that was my mistake. Because it was one of those days that Matthew left for New Jersey and didn't return. I tried to communicate with him, but the calls, the messages, the letters went futile. I was devastated thinking he would leave us for another woman. But it was the bitter truth, and I had to raise our son on my own. Those years were tough, but as Ivan aged, I started to move on. Until one day, Matthew suddenly returned to the house. Dad? Mom, come! Dad is here! Matthew? Where were you all these years? Just know that I'm back. Matthew seemed like a totally different person. He had lost a lot of weight. He looked like he had been through a lot. The baggy eyes, the constant anxiety. Seeing his condition, I felt for him. I didn't ask him for any explanation. But it wasn't just that, but Matthew himself didn't spend much time with us either. We rarely ever spoke, and most of the time he spent working in his study upstairs. I was tempted to confront him. When one of those nights, I woke up to find he wasn't in bed. I figured he was in his study, but when I went to search for him, I overheard him speaking to someone. There was another man with him. I began to eavesdrop on them, and finally came to know the truth behind Matthew's sudden change. How dare you come to my house? You know what I need. You don't need anything, and neither did she. Her father didn't owe money to anyone. Matthew was a very talented software engineer, but some people had taken advantage of him. He had invented a programming code that could erase footage from any security camera and hack into ATM machines. But he hadn't created it for his own self, but to save that woman. He was led to believe she was in trouble, but it was all a lie. What are you doing? Have you gone mad? Stop! I don't have a choice, Matthew. I don't know what else to do. It's either I'll end my own life, or they'll come to take my life. Who? What are you talking about? Some years back, my father had loaned money from these men, but he passed away before he could repay them. Now they're after me, but I don't have that kind of money. and I can't live like this in constant fear. You don't have to. I'll help you pay it off. Matthew had saved her, but he wasn't in the state to pay off $100,000. That's when she shared with him a plan of hers to loot the money. There is one way, the BII Bank. You want to steal? Look, Matthew, all we need is a few $1,000s. If you take 2 mugs of water from the ocean, it wouldn't matter. We're not going to be thieves. I'll just be redeeming the sin of my father without harming anyone. Matthew agreed to help her and began working on the codes, and it was within some months that he had created the right combination. But it was some time before he was to hand over the information to her that he found out she had been cheating on him. And it was with none other than one of Matthew's partners. After 3 years of working on this, it's finally going to happen, baby. Please, you didn't have to do anything. Sweetheart, everything will be worth it when we're rich. What is going on? Matthew, look, it's not what you think. Do you think I'm stupid? You used me. And you're not stupid? Matthew was hurt and enraged, realizing this was all a strategy of theirs into making him develop the codes that they couldn't over all these years. But Matthew wasn't going to let that happen. If you want to leave, leave, but before you go, you must hand over the code for your own sake. That's never going to happen. After he found out, Matthew left New Jersey and came back home. But a few days later, his partner too traveled to Buffalo and broke into the house. Hand over the codes. I'm not afraid of you. You think you will threaten me and find them? I'll tell you what, they're in this very house, but you'll never find them. Matthew refused to give up the information. The conversation turned into a heated argument, until I heard a gunshot in the room. I was horrified. I immediately broke open the door and barely caught a glimpse of the man escape through the window, and Matthew laying there on the floor. Matthew, I'll call an ambulance. No, Evelyn, it's too late. My wallet, my watch. My husband isn't missing. My husband is dead. I buried him in our backyard that dark night. I always loved you, Matthew, and I will avenge your death. I knew whoever that man was would return to this house, so I put this house on sale, knowing he wouldn't put down the offer no matter how high it was in return for those codes. The only problem was, I never saw him, so I had to invite every man that came to take up the offer. But what I did find was a picture of the woman in Matthew's wallet. And when my son saw you this morning, he recognized you immediately, Miss Claire Martin. Claire's lips suddenly twisted into a smirk. You're not much smarter than your husband either, Evelyn. Jason chuckled. How long do you think it will take to take the life of an old woman like you and your son? I've done it once, and I can do it again. Ivan quickly stood up in rage. You sick. Miss Taylor held him back, shaking his head. It sure is a cold day today, Mr. Martin. I'm sure you enjoyed that hot cocoa I got you. Don't you feel like taking a small snooze? Jason and Claire woke up in a dark, damp room, their hands and legs tied up. They could barely see anything around them, and all they could hear was the squeaking sound of rats scurrying by. Suddenly, the lights flickered on, and Miss Taylor walked down the stairs into the basement. Jason and Claire were horrified to find themselves locked up in a cage. All this time, everyone thought my husband left me while he was dead. I've been waiting for this day since that night. I hope you too will enjoy your lifetime imprisonment here. Jason and Claire tried to kick their legs to get loose. That's when Ivan hurried down the stairs as well. Awake already? Don't bother, Mr. Martin. There's no use of getting out of those ties. Where are you going to go? Oh, and as for those secret codes, I don't have much knowledge on these matters, but I can see my son has interest in it. And Matthew did say it is in this house. I'm sure one day my son will discover them. But Mom, all these years I've been feeding these rats for you. I need a break. You don't believe in execution, but I have no problem with it. I'm not going to feed them anymore. What? Let us out of here. Sorry, but don't worry. It's only a matter of time. Oh, that watch doesn't work. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.